Hey GAWDA members, we finally made it. Welcome to the SMC episode of GAWDA TV. We're just about 2 weeks from being together for this year's Spring Management Conference in Oklahoma City. Here for all of your last minute travel tips and planning notes is GAWDA Vice President of Operations and Administration, Natasha Alexis.
Thank you, Steve. It's always great to spend this time with GAWDA members on GAWDA TV. I am joining you all in the GAWDA HQ lobby today. Excited that we're going to be joining hundreds of you in Oklahoma City for our 2026 Spring Management Conference. Steve, thank you for giving a couple minutes to us for us to share with you a few things to know as you prepare to meet for the upcoming meeting. First, we're going to have great weather. The highs in the 80s, low in the 60s. Hopefully that doesn't change. Not sure what the weather's like across America, but in Oklahoma City, it's going to be nice. Pack your business casual attire for the weather. Once you land in Oklahoma City, the airport is located just a short 10 miles to the Omni, Oklahoma. Very easy Uber ride. Once you arrive to the hotel and get checked in, go to see the friendly GAWDA headquarters team, Bruce and Holly, at registration to pick up your registration badge. You will need your badge to attend all the various events. We also will continue to have these schedule cards for you, quick guide on what time things are happening and where they're happening. Also, the classic program book, which will provide comprehensive information on what's happening for the conference. For those of you who prefer things digitally, download the GAWDA app, which should be available now. Again, details on GAWDA.org. So that's the information to get you there. Now, when you are at registration, Holly will be asking you what hotel you are staying at. This is not to be intrusive. This is just information that helps us plan for future contracts. We're already looking into 2029, and it helps us to know what members prefer to stay at the hosting hotel, or some members have relationship with Hiltons, Marriott's, and prefer to keep their points whatever your preference is. We would just like to have this information to prepare to comfortably accommodate all of you. So you've arrived, you're checked in. Some of you volunteers are going to be in committee meetings. And now it's time for first timers to gather for the newcomers reception. You should have received information from the Member Services Committee. We are excited to welcome you to GAWDA, newly joined members, and for those attending from established companies for the first time. I will be there. I look forward to welcoming you. Later that evening, our president, Allison Earlback, welcomes everyone to this SMC at a very cool venue called the Jones Assembly. It was formerly an assembly line for the automobile industry, 2 stories. Really cool record collection for our music lovers. Digital games we will have following the theme of human advantage in a digital age. Catch that. And a robot photo booth. Lots of great energy. And as always, music, drinks, food. No need to leave early. Everything will be there for those 4 hours. An opportunity to keep all members there for great network and connection. Now we will be providing complimentary Ubers. It is a walkable 15 minutes from the hotel, but for those who prefer to Uber, we got you. Young professionals will be hosting an after party at the hotel. Great way to end that first day. The next day, we will have our traditional breakfast, main stage events, and education sessions, 6 education sessions. Be sure you and your colleagues spread out to capture all the different knowledge in the various topics. Later that afternoon, the Women of Gases and Welding will follow up with Cavagna, who will be the main presenter for a hands-on workshop. We'll have our contact booth that afternoon with a last hour happy hour. Last day, we will have main stage speakers again, and then an update from our GAWDA president again, Allison Earlbach. Jam-packed event, and we look forward to having you there. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us at the GAWDA headquarters team. We're getting ready to welcome all of you to Oklahoma City. Back to you, Steve.
We can't wait to see everybody in Oklahoma City. We've got an amazing show lined up for you today, and it all comes right after a word from today's presenting sponsor, Weldcoa. In the April 1st episode of GAWDA TV, Industry Partnering Committee co-chair Terry Scanlon joined Natasha to talk about this year's 3rd annual Best in Show Awards. Joining us today on the show is the committee's other co-chair, Luke Martin, along with inaugural winner Paul Kinsella of Datacor and last year's runner-up recipient Brittany Carrico of USA Cylinder. Thank you all for being with us today.
Hey, I'm Luke Martin, Middlesex Gas's co-chair of the Industry Partnering Committee, along with Terry Scanlon. I'm joined with Paul Kinsella and Brittany Carrico, the Datacor, the 2024 winner of the Best in Show Contact Booth Program, and USA Cylinder, recognized for the 2025 Contact Booth Program. So today we'd like to discuss, preparing for the Contact Booth Program, heading into the SMC in Oklahoma City, as well as the best practices. And we thought, who else to provide some of the best information than the past winner and a couple past winners. So, my first question, for Paul, would be, what is the thought process behind preparing for the upcoming Contact Booth Program? What goes into it?
Well, I think for us, what we tried to do is we tried to look at what we currently do in the market and what type of marketing and how we're marketing our company, the theme, so to speak, or the particular program we were trying to run. And we tried to say, hey, how can we, kind of center our booth upon that so that there's some commonality between what we're saying in the marketplace and what we're trying to portray in the marketplace to what our booth actually looks like. Kind of take the print media or the marketing campaign that our sales reps are going to the market with, and actually making it something tangible and real at our booth, so that the customers could relate to the booth just like they relate to what we as a company are trying to promote at that current time.
And Brittany, same question to you. What goes into preparing for a Contact Booth Program?
Yeah, so 2025 was a little different because it was our first year as USA Cylinder. We were formerly California Cylinder, so we really wanted to express that. We were a new company name. We have 2 locations now. Our headquarters is in Tennessee. We're not just on the West Coast. So we really wanted to make that our primary focus.
Yeah, I think, part of the, Contact Booth Program, the design, it's so important to relate that to what you guys are currently, doing out in the market and getting that message out to customers. So, it's all important, especially at the SMC, giving that, message out, when everyone's there is a huge importance to, both your companies. Can you guys talk about the importance of, booth personnel engaging visitors in the contact booth program rather than sitting, passively or being kind of off to the side, and how that downline brings people in with the design, but then keeps them engaged and keeps, people at your booths?
So in last year, we kind of, the new owners, myself and Jennifer, and our other officers, we brought in the former CEO of California Cylinder, Curtis and Debbie, into our booth. We tried to incorporate the whole transition. This is, we are the same company and bigger, same people, bigger, still family. We really wanted to make that a primary focus. So we did bring everybody to the last two.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have the right people at the booth, the sales reps that are dealing with the customers, and, the management that may not, get out to see as many of the customers, but, you can put a name with a face, engaging the people and bringing them into the booth and having a little bit more of an in-depth conversation about the products. And that's why I think it's important, again, to have, your booth representative of who you are and what you are, so that, you're not just bringing them over with some type of a gimmick or some type of a giveaway that has nothing really to do with your products. Again, people are there to learn. People are there to see things, and it's easy to walk up and down the aisle and just take a glance. But if you can get people into your booth and engage in the conversation, usually there's some later contacts and that you can fall back on that started at the convention.
Yeah, so beyond booth appearance and customer engagement, once you get people in, Paul, is there anything that are factors that contribute to having a successful booth?
Well, I think, again, it's always nice to have something new and refreshing to talk about. That doesn't always happen to be the case. We're in an industry where there's not exactly a whole bunch of state-of-the-art breaking products coming through every single day. But, I think that if you can speak, find out what their interest is, what perhaps they're looking for, where they want to expand, where they're maybe having issues gaining product, or if the current market and the chaos is causing them some issues, address those type of things, or if you don't have an answer, you can do the old "I'll get back to you with that answer" type of a thing. At least try to engage them on what currently is going through their mind, and trying to help.
And Brittany, how do you feel your booth, can best exemplify the best in show? What is the kind of above and beyond that company does get recognized as, being a best in show?
Right. So we do, a bunch of different things. We all want to be on the same page. So it kind of starts there. We really try and promote, the family, the quick lead times, just getting the feedback from everybody. It really brings a lot of people in. I used to talk to a lot of people on the phone, and now being more in person, get that one-on-one interaction. So it's been really nice. And, with the new name and logo and everything, it really did bring a lot of people in and question, well, this is the same company, and we're bigger now, we're growing, and I kind of think it showed a lot in our booth. People were noticing us, we were brought up in conversations, and so it's been really nice.
Sure. And so, what comes with winning this award is the recognition. So, Brittany, what recognition has your company and yourself received, since winning this award?
A couple people have brought it up to us. It's really kind of just it's been great. People have been very positive about everything, and it just kind of brought up different conversations that we didn't have with some customers in the past. And so, to know that we have that presence and we're centrally located and we can take care of the East Coast, it's what really, saying USA, it means a lot to people. And so that's really been a factor to bring some people to start discussing business with us.
Absolutely. And Paul, what recognition have you guys as Exocor received, since winning this award back in, 2024?
Well, first, the booth, was very well received. We had a lot of fun with it, kind of setting up a chemistry set, concocting the recipe for true customer experience, the Exacore experience, we called it. So we had a lot of fun doing it. I think a lot of the customers that did know us, commented on the fact that it really kind of fit with the type of the way we approach our business. Customers that didn't know us very well, I think, could see that business doesn't have to, couldn't be pleasurable, it could be fun. So we've had a lot of comments on it, even recently about the show, and especially going back again. You feel that you do have to at least present something, because people ask you, are you going to try, again, to win it back? And we've got some fun things planned this year, again, which kind of, again, dovetail right into to what we're promoting in the marketplace, and the strategies that we have, and what the messages we want to get across to the customer, not just in the written word, but in a little bit of a fun, tangible way at the show.
That's great. So if you guys had, one piece of advice that you could give to someone that would like to win the Best in Show, what would that advice be?
I would say, look at it as an opportunity to have a little bit of an enjoyment. It can be educational and fun at the same time. It can kind of, again, take your tried and true pitch to a higher level, where people can kind of see what you're trying to get across, and kind of get to know you in a little bit of a different way. Remember that we see these people an awful lot, and it's a great opportunity to present your company in a slightly different way, that maybe through a normal sales call or through a Teams meeting you couldn't do. So I would take advantage of it and have fun with it.
Definitely have fun with it. It was honestly something that we were aware of, that this was going to be a thing. But honestly, we went there. We engaged with the customers. That's one of the main things. Be focused on it, and just be yourself and enjoy it. Because if you're too high stress about it, you're going to miss a lot. You're going to miss a lot of the people, and forget some of the conversations. And that's really important to have. That's what makes this event so special. Just the interaction with everybody, putting a face to a name on something that you guys just have like casual conversations with on the phone. Getting to have that personal friend connection is key, and that's where this happens.
Absolutely. Appreciate, both of you guys, taking the time, Paul and Brittany. Looking forward to, hopefully you guys will be back up in the Best in Show, but hopefully some of this advice here that, you've provided resonates with some other members that will be attending, and they can up their game and be up into the, Best in Show and be recognized as well. So again, thank you both for joining, and good luck in the upcoming Contact Booth program and the Best in Show contest of the SMC.
Paul and Brittany, congratulations once again on being recognized as Best in Show. Good luck to all of the Contact Booth program participants this year. We can't wait to see who gets recognized. For a complete list of Contact Booth participants, click the link in the description below. And to read a best practices article from Terry Scanlon, also read the link in the description below. This year's SMC will see the return of the educational track sessions. In last episode of GAWDA TV, we were joined by Robert Gary and Brad Davis, who discussed their educational tracks. Joining us today is Michaela Falconer. Michaela will be presenting in the second set of educational tracks on Monday, May 18th. Michaela, thank you so much for joining us today. You'll be presenting on practical tools to lead a multi-generational workforce, which is obviously a very timely topic for GAWDA members. Can you give us a brief overview of what your presentation will be covering?
Yeah, we have more access to information and resources than ever before, but the resounding message from people seems to be managing people feels harder than it ever has before. So for a bit of context, back at the 2022 annual convention, I led a session addressing mental health in the workplace. And we landed that conversation by encouraging leaders to leverage those micro interactions with their people throughout the day. So this session picks up where we left off there, zooming in on the how. How do we leverage those micro interactions? The session's really about giving managers tools they can use immediately. So not just theory, not just ideas. We're focusing specifically on those real life moments where the interactions get tricky. So things like giving feedback, navigating perceived entitlement, addressing disengagement, managing different expectations across those generations that we see. So I'll be sharing some simple frameworks and actual conversation scripts that attendees can use, so they leave not just thinking differently about managing those interactions, but actually feeling confident to manage them in real time.
This is a complex topic. Broad strokes, what are the biggest differences in the way that generations interact in today's workforce?
Yeah, it is a big topic, but really, really broadly, it's a little bit of a both and. So it's both true that there are certain key differences that we see generationally. And a lot of that has to do not with fundamental difference in the wiring of people of these different generations, but more that they're a product of what was valued and rewarded and talked about at that time. And so things like transparency, looking for transparency from your managers about how they deal with, for example, difficult emotions that they're experiencing or how they navigate stress. That wasn't a conversation that was really elevated in previous generations in the workforce, not nearly as much as it is now. And so you can already see with just something as specific as that, where those points of friction could be, where we have a gap in expectations in the workforce. But the other side of that coin is that it's easy to hyper-focus and get really intimidated by those generational differences, when really what we see in a lot of the research is that there's a wide variety in differences of expectations around communication, feedback, flexibility, what it looks like to grow and be successful in your work. And so those differences, as I said, can create friction if we don't have a shared language for navigating them. So really in this session, our eye is toward appreciating what maybe some of the low-hanging fruit generational differences that we can bank on seeing are, and then taking a step back and saying, okay, I want to help managers at every level move out of the frustration and the guesswork so that they can move into more intentional, effective conversations, really so that they can lead their people well, no matter what generation they're from.
The SMC is known to penetrate deeper into organizations than the annual convention. It's not just the C-suite in attendance. So who would you say is the ideal target for your presentation this year?
Everyone is the target. If you have interactions in the workplace with other people and you perceive there could be some kind of difference in your expectations with them, no matter where you are in the org chart, this can be beneficial to you. Because when we talk about the scripts, it's going to be about starting with a foundational sort of plug and play template that you can use to navigate these different conversational friction points, but they are adaptable and scalable. And so you can adjust them depending on who you're speaking to, who's in front of you in that moment.
This year's theme is the human advantage in the digital age. Your presentation really gets right to the heart of the human aspect. How would you say this year's presentation fits into the theme?
Yeah, as more of the technical and operational side of work becomes automated or supported by AI, what really sets teams apart more and more is how effectively people work with other people. And so that's where we see things getting more complex with those shifting expectations. And so Alison Earlbeck, the current GAWDA president, has chosen that theme, the human advantage in the digital age. And so this session is really about strengthening that human advantage by preparing people to feel equipped to have the skill set, no matter what their actual job is in their organization. They have the skill set to navigate emotions, build trust, and effectively manage those unpredictable situations that we encounter all the time.
When you spoke in San Diego in 2022, the theme for that year was bridging the gap between generations. With baby boomers continuing to transition out of the business and mostly Gen X and millennials filling those leadership roles, do you see communications in companies shifting at all?
I think kind of back to the piece about where some of those generational differences come from, I think we're going to see different topics being elevated over others in the workplace. The same sorts of guiding values that make up this industry are always going to prevail, but I think part of the opportunity for the changing complexion of the workforce itself is that these leaders are going to be able to lead by example, bringing up certain topics that maybe might not have been prioritized in the past, but are very much high on their hit list of change to drive in their organization.
Is there any particular mindset you'd like attendees of your presentation to come into the room with?
Yeah, I would say, it's not about overhauling your leadership style or even your communication style. It's more about being open to a few strategic, well-placed shifts in how you approach these interactions. So as far as, it's a come as you are sort of situation, I would say come with a willingness to experiment a little. You're not going to be put on the spot, but it's absolutely going to be incumbent on you to take what you're learning, filter it through what you know about your own organization and your people, and then come ready to take those ideas and adapt them right away. That is the promise of this, is that you won't just be leaving with some nice to know theory. You're actually going to be leaving with scripts, real tools that you can use right away with your people.
Michaela, we've covered a lot of ground here today. Is there any last message that you want to leave with viewers before we go today?
Yeah, I think knowing that this can be intimidating. A lot of times people think that over preparation is the way through these sticky situations. And so just to dispel that myth right off the bat, before you even come in, it is not about doing more. This is actually, I hope, going to leave you feeling liberated from having to pre-plan everything. It's more about getting a few ingredients in place in your mind ahead of time that will enable you to adapt in the moment. So it's not about doing more, it's about doing differently, and we'll do it together.
Michaela, thank you so much for being with us. We can't wait to see your presentation. For more information about this timely topic, check out Michaela's article in the Q2 issue of Welding and Gases Today, online now and linked in the description below.
For more than 20 years, CO2Meter has supported the industrial gas community with a focus on one thing: gas safety. Founded in 2006, we work alongside GAWDA members to address real-world risks in fill plants and customer environments with reliable multi-gas monitoring. Our solutions are built for early hazard detection, long-term accuracy, and dependable performance. Visit CO2Meter.com or email sales@CO2Meter.com to identify and close safety gaps before incidents occur.
GAWDA's 4th regional meeting of 2026 will take place in Seven Springs, Pennsylvania on June 23rd and 24th. Joining us next on the show today is Regional Chair Abydee Butler Moore and Dr. Vincent Covello, Founder and Director for the Center for Risk Communication. Dr. Covello will be giving the morning workshop on Tuesday, June 23rd.
Thank you so much, Steve. Dr. Covello, when I saw you at CGA, at the Compressed Gas Association, as well as IOMA, the International Oxygen Manufacturers Association, I was so excited to bring your content to our community at GAWDA and have this be an official GAWDA growth workshop. I think what I'm curious to know, and maybe what our members are curious to know as well when registering for this session, what makes communication during a crisis fundamentally different from just our everyday business communication?
Right. So that's been the focus of most of my career, almost 4 decades now. What goes on in the human brain when we're in a difficult situation, high stakes situation, high stress situation. And the good news is that we made quite a few discoveries over the past 4 decades that have illuminated what goes on within the brain when we're confronted with communicating bad news, when we have to communicate in a crisis. And so what I'm planning to do in my session is to share what we've learned. One of the major advances is that we have now the ability to watch the brain processing information in simulated high stress situations. Communicating bad news, watching bad news. How does the brain, for example, function under conditions of stress? And there's been major developments that I'm going to be sharing those. And I'll give you a couple examples just to, first of all, we've been able to confirm most of what has been said before by behavioral and social science research. For example, Aristotle 2,000 years ago said that the brain functions best in a high stress situation when it organizes information in groupings of threes, the magic number 3. Now, he stated this over 2,000 years ago, and that particular finding stayed on a shelf, quite literally. It's like a bookshelf. You have a bookshelf behind me for almost 2,000 years before we then had the ability to see if that really does happen. Does the brain function better when we organize our knowledge into groupings of threes? The magic number 3. 3 key messages, 3 supporting facts, repetitions 3 times. Those are 3 elements of the rule of 3. And it turns out the research using MRI, CT scans, something called PET technology, they've confirmed that holding constant other variables, the brain functions better in a high stress situation, such as when you have to communicate bad news or have a conversation about bad news, that it functions better when you organize your information in threes. So if someone says to you, why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this because of A, B, and C. And you leave out the D's and E's for the next conversation or to expand. I'd be happy to tell you more. In fact, psychologists often use that expression, tell me more. We let people have a conversation with us, the brain have a conversation with us, tell me more. So that's a confirmation of something we've known for 2,000 years. Now we're able to confirm it. And there's lots of implications for this. For example, something called, which I believe I presented in both the times, Abydee, that you saw me, it's called a message map, where we organize our knowledge into groupings of 3 key messages, 3 supporting facts that repeat 3 times. So that's the old news that's become new news, because now we can confirm it. The new news, the one that really gets me excited, is that we now observe the brain processing information and found that there are changes that take place in the brain in processing that we never suspected before. For example, when you're communicating bad news or having a conversation about a crisis, the information that you're sharing with the person shifts from the frontal lobes of the brain, where information processing, rational thinking takes place, to a different part of the brain. It's called the limbic system. And the limbic system, also within the limbic system, is something called the amygdala. And the amygdala is a very small part of the brain, about the size of an almond, very deep in the brain. It's a fight or flight part of the brain. We often remember this from biology, fight, freeze, flight. Well, here's what we found, is that when a person is stressed, the information that is being shared about that stress event is going to the amygdala for processing, which means now the amygdala has to decide, should I tell the person to fight whatever is come up, hold my ground, wait it out, or, for example, flee, abandon the playing field entirely. Now, you say, well, how is this important in terms of practical implications? I'll start off with, for example, I may have shared this before, the word but, B-U-T. We use this in ordinary conversations as a way by which to link 2 thoughts together. I'm really sorry for the delay in getting you the report, but we are finished with the project. But in low stress situations, that information is processed in the frontal lobes of the brain. In high stress situations, we now can observe through the MRI, CT scans, that it goes directly to the amygdala for processing, fight, freeze, or flight. And here's the kicker. It changes its meaning. That in a high stress, high concern situation, words that we commonly use as a way to converse with people in high stress situations change their meanings. For example, the word but no longer functions as a conjunction, linking together 2 thoughts. It functions as a negator. It negates the words that went before and prepares the person for something negative to follow. And we use these words so commonly. You know, I'm sorry, I'm late for this meeting. But, well, it turns out that I'm sorry, I'm late for the meeting becomes negated. You're really not sorry. And you prepared the person for something negative to follow, such as, we'll never have this meeting again, or the meeting is canceled, or you're fired, whatever it is. And that undermines the effectiveness and totally of the communication. And the good news on this one is, now that we're able to confirm this discovery, is that there are simple solutions. conversational solution, such as to use the word and. The word and stays in the frontal lobes of the brain. It becomes a conjunction, links two thoughts together. In a high stress, high concern situation, it functions exactly the same as a link between two thoughts. So therefore, a practical recommendation, and I'm going to be going through a lot of these practical recommendations. How do we put this into practice that very day, that very night, the next day? We drop the word but from our crisis communications. We simply don't use it. We use the word and to start a whole new sentence in the process. I just wanted to use that as an illustration of what we're discovering now through the basically we opened up a door with neuroscience to understand what happens to the brain and how we can turn that into practical knowledge.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It sounds like our attendees are really going to leave this workshop with a lot of take-home nuggets that we can all incorporate that make us better salespeople or better safety managers or even just better people leaders in business. Other than or in addition to the utilization or lack thereof of the word but, what other common mistakes do you see leaders making when delivering bad news? I know you've done extensive work with their products, so it could be from that experience or just in general from all of your research. What mistakes are leaders making in addition to overutilizing but?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's a long list now of words. It started off when it was accidental, serendipity, when we observed the word but going to a different part of the brain. There's now 20 words that change their meaning, 20 different words that we use as a way by which to converse with others that change their meaning in a high stress, high concern situation. I'll give you just two more examples. The expression, as you know, we often will say to people in a conversation, as you know, we have a meeting next week. Or even words that are very similar to as you know, clearly or obviously. It turns out those words activate the amygdala part of the brain. When a person hears an absolute, automatically the person starts saying to themselves, what are the exceptions? How many exceptions are there to this? And it goes in a completely different direction, for example, than the way that you want the conversation to proceed. So another word to eliminate from our ordinary conversations, let alone, for example, even from our extraordinary conversations, such as high stress, high concern, or words such as the words, as you know, clearly, obviously, indisputably, unmistakably. There's a large number of words that function similar to that. So I'm going to share the highlights of that type of research, and then I'll be giving references so if someone would like to know more about them. Another conclusion, that in today's world where trust is so much in question, that it becomes critical for us to bring into the conversation what are believed to be credible third parties. In the past, institutions could be trusted. We believed what people said to us. Unfortunately, to a degree. In today's world, there's been a radical change in trust, institutional trust. Virtually every major institution has hemorrhaged trust. Started off with used car salesmen, then went to banking industry, religion, politics, academia, science, that virtually every major institution has hemorrhaged trust. Now, what does that mean for us practically? It means, among other things, we need to be much clearer in the way we communicate. People cannot struggle with the information. So that goes back to that rule of three, organizing our information in a much more effective way and making sure that within those three messages, we have references to sources of information that people trust. It's almost impossible to go through the world without trust. And even if it's not the traditional places that people turn to, it might be an influencer. For example, Kim Kardashian believes this. I know as absurd as this says, but nonetheless, in a world where people sort of are struggling to say, well, who should I trust about this information? We need to know who they trust and then incorporate them into our communications to make that part and parcel of what we're saying.
That's so interesting. I'm very excited to hopefully sit in the front row of this workshop. What can our attendees expect to walk away with if people attend the June 23rd morning workshop at GAWDA 7 Springs?
Right. So first thing that my objective is to share the major findings that have practical implications for sharing bad news communicating in a crisis, navigating through a difficult, high-stress, high-concern situation. The second is I will be providing a chart which has effectively tools for navigating. They're all based on that rule of 3 that I mentioned before. We have about 25 tools now that have come from the research where we test how we present messages and then transfer them into a toolbox. For example, Aristotle, once again, he offered something 2,000 years ago that's very exciting. He said when people are stressed and upset, the first thing they're looking for as a way by which to address their stress or anxiety is what's called a message of authority. And authority can be rules, regulations, subject matter experts. Then they look for logic. What's the logic of this? If A, then B. If I don't do A, then what happens to B? And then finally is emotion, that people respond and are motivated by emotions. That's one of these 25 rules or tools that we have in our toolbox. So one of the things I'll take away is in the same way you can have a toolbox if you went to a carpentry class, you would have a hammer, a screwdriver, etc. There'll be 20 different tools that people can take away to put into practice quite literally right after the workshop.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for joining us on GAWDA TV today. And I think that this topic is particularly relevant to the gases and welding industry. When we have to communicate clearly under pressure and uncertainty. There are a lot of disruptions in our supply chain and things that happen globally that affect customers locally. And communicating clearly when there is a lot of uncertainty and where we don't have visibility into those forecasts can be quite a challenge. Not to mention delivering difficult messages with empathy when dealing with people as a people leader or as a manager in our roles, even navigating customer communication when we deliver bad news. Are there other areas of particular relevance that you've seen from your experience to our industry?
Well, actually, one of the things you just said was critical. Again, something that was alluded to over 2,000 years ago by Aristotle has now been confirmed by the neuroscience. You mentioned the word empathy, and that is the expression offered by Aristotle. When people are stressed and upset, they want to know that you care before they care what you know. I'll say it's so critical that when people are stressed, anxious, worried, regardless if it's based on perception or reality, they want to know that you care before they care what you know. They want to know that you are hearing them. They want to know that you care about what you're hearing. They want to know that you're empathic. You're trying to put yourself in their shoes and see the world through their eyes or walk in their shoes in the process. That is a preamble. And the reason that's so critical, because we want to get to the facts as quickly as possible. We feel the facts will resolve an issue. It turns out the resolution of the issue begins with the expressions of empathy and caring. We'll discuss that as well.
Amazing. Well, I am so excited and thank you. We look forward to seeing you at GAWDA 7 Springs, where registration is currently open for GAWDA members to attend June 23rd and 24th. And your half-day workshop kicks off our agenda the morning of June 23rd. And then you'll also be addressing the entire audience the morning of June 24th with some morning motivation and some leadership words of wisdom to kick off the business session. So we're so excited to have you and thank you for your connection to the GAWDA community.
Thank you, Abydee and Dr. Covello. It sounds like it's going to be another can't-miss workshop at 7 Springs. Registration for this year's regional is open now, so click the link in the description below to register today.
The packaged gas and welding supply industry needs a comprehensive software tool to track assets and effectively manage price volatility, procurement challenges, and new regulatory requirements. Datacor ERP does all of this and more. Our software helps gas distributors refine shipping and inventory processes, improve production and distribution models, track assets, and achieve long and short-range planning with greater accuracy. Start using data to grow your business, enhance your productivity, and enable success with Datacor.
Today's member news segment is brought to you by Anthony Karts. Check out the new CB6 6C 2WL HT cylinder cradle with full 360-degree mobility and heavy-duty handling today. This cradle is a rugged and highly maneuverable solution for transporting and storing industrial gas cylinders with ease. Whether you're operating in a fabrication shop, gas distribution center, or field service operation, the CB6 6C 2WL HT offers unmatched versatility and strength. Learn more or request a quote today at Anthony's website, www.anthonycarts.com. We begin today's member news segment with 3 pieces of sad news. GAWDA extends its condolences to the friends and family of Coleman Vickery, Buzz Campbell, and Phyllis Heppel Valentine. Coleman Vickery was the owner of American Standard Manufacturing. He passed away on March 2nd at the age of 79. As a man of many talents, he excelled in blacksmithing, woodworking, engineering, photography, and giving advice when asked, and he will be missed by all who knew him. John Buzz Campbell passed away on March 24th at the age of 90. Buzz was an industry legend known throughout GAWDA for his time at Air Products and later Cryogas International. Buzz remained active in the industry throughout his 80s, even contributing articles to Welding and Gases Today. His presence will be missed by all who knew him. Phyllis Heppel Valentine passed away on March 20th at the age of 78. Her husband, Chip Valentine, is the former president of GAWDA. Phyllis loved her family more than anything in the world, and she made sure that everyone knew how much she loved them and had an incredible gift for making everyone she met feel that they were special to her. She will be missed. In happier news, the second quarter issue of Welding and Gases Today is online now and will be on site at this year's SMC in Oklahoma City. The Q2 issue is the SMC issue and features columns from several of this year's conference speakers. Click the link in the description below to read the full issue today or pick up your copy at registration. Following an incredible 37-year career in the industry, Doug Morton has retired from Elite Cryogenics effective today. We wish you well in a well-deserved retirement, Doug. Matheson announced that it had rebranded as Nippon Sanso Matheson and has named Alan Draper as its new CEO effective April 1st. Airgas acquired Hust Brothers Inc.'s packaged gas and welding distribution division. Transtech Group strengthened its industrial gas platform with the acquisition of All Cryo. Holston Gases acquired Athens Gas and Welding Supply. Tier 5 Labs and Coastal Specialty Gases are now operating together as AWG Specialty Gases. Ashley Bivens was named Vice President of Business Development for AWG. Bart Peters was named Sales Director for Control Devices Compressed Gas Segment. And finally, Stanley Black & Decker is recognized as one of America's most innovative companies. To learn more about any of these member news items or to submit member news of your own, read the complete May 1st issue of the GAWDA Connection in your email inbox today or by clicking the link in the description below. GAWDA Media is the go-to resource for news and information about the gases and welding industry. Through our wide variety of publication platforms, GAWDA Media keeps our members up to date on all of the most breaking news, emerging trends, and member events in the industry. Want to get your company's message seen? We have a quarterly print publication, a twice-monthly newsletter, an online buyer's guide, and a twice-monthly news show. If it's happening at Gases and Welding, it's happening on GAWDA Media. Want to learn more? Contact your GAWDA Media representative today. And that's our show for this month. Once again, the SMC preview issue of Welding and Gases Today is online now. We can't wait to be together again in Oklahoma City in just a couple of weeks. To prepare for the event, GAWDA President Allison Earlbach put together an amazing explainer of things to do in the city while we're there. You can see that explainer by clicking the link in the description below. We wish you all safe travels and we'll see you soon. For all of us here at GAWDA TV, this is Steve Guglielmo signing off. See you in Oklahoma City.